Good morning, my beloved students. I hope that you are doing well and that you are safe, inshallah, as usual. Today, kids, as you can see, we're going to start with a very interesting story that has something to do with the past. It's a super interesting story. As you can see, the title of the story here is The Moon Tree. So, as usual, before we start with the story, let's talk a little bit about the genre of the story and let's brainstorm some questions that are going to be related to the story. So let's quickly start with the genre of the story, The Moon Tree. The genre of the story, The Moon Tree, is short story. It is a short story. What is a short story? Short stories, they typically focus on a single plot, which means usually there are a lot of events that are happening in the story. Usually it is a single plot with some simple setting, simple characters. This is what we call the short story. It is a work of fiction that focuses on one important event and a very small number of the main characters that can be usually read in one sitting. This is the short story. Now, before we start with the text, let's think of these questions. Number one, what is an example of something from your past that you want to keep? Maybe something you lost, maybe something you really love, you want really to keep from your past. And the second question is, what item would you put in a time capsule? Maybe to travel through past and future. So let's start with our story, The Moon Tree. Now, before we start with the story, The Moon Tree, let's read some interesting information about the moon tree. What is the moon tree? Moon trees are trees grown from 500 seeds, which means that there are more than one moon tree around the world. These 500 seeds, they were taken into orbit around the moon and they came back by Stuart Rosa. This is the astronauts. So there's something which is really unique about the moon trees. As you can see in the picture, they are normal trees, but the special thing about this moon tree is the seed was taken to the moon and it comes back. So let's start with the story, The Moon Tree. As you can see here, we have the genre of the text, which is a short story. We're going to focus in the story about why is it important for people to save things from the past. So let's quickly start with the story. As you can see in this picture, this is our main character, which is a boy named Hector. As you can see, this is the moon tree with the very strange plaque in front of this tree. And please notice these red flags that surround the moon tree. Let's start. The ball flew like a rocket into the woods. Now Hector was playing with the ball, so this ball flew like a rocket into the woods. Hector found the ball next to a strange, it's unique, flat stone that was dirty and scratched. And this is a sign that this stone is really old. It rested, it was there against a, which means next to, a tall sycamore tree. It's a kind of trees, North American tree. On the stone was a brass plaque. Look at the plaque. It was a brass plaque, which means a metal plaque. It said, "The seed of this tree was a space explorer," which means this seed went to the moon. It went to the moon with the crew of the Apollo 14. The seed was planted here on July 4th, 1976. Hector ran to get his friend Stuart. He didn't notice the red flags that circled the tree. These red flags are a sign that there's something wrong which is going to happen. Now, what is the Apollo 14? It was the 8th crewed mission in the United States that was sent to the moon in order to study the moon and gather different information about that amazing, let's say, moon, okay? Now, what happened next? Now, before, take a look at some pictures for Apollo 14, the mission. That was the rocket. And this is the real plaque that was on the stone that tells the story of this moon tree. This tree was grown from a seed carried to the moon and back on Apollo 14. Now, look at Hector. Hector went to a library to read more about the moon tree. Hector and Stuart ran to the library and they read about the moon trees. The boys learned that 500 seeds went on the space mission. The seeds didn't land on the moon. So the seeds, they didn't come down on the moon. They stayed in orbit. Look, they stayed in orbit with astronaut Stuart Rosa. It had been his idea to bring the seeds with them on the space mission Apollo 14. Back on Earth, the seeds grew into normal trees, so they are normal trees. Space travel had not changed them. People planted hundreds of moon tree seedlings, and the trees grew all over the world. The boys told the librarian, Mrs. Wu, about the moon tree. Look, this is the orbit. Now, I forgot about our moon tree, said Mrs. Wu, but I have bad news. What was the problem? She explained that most of the woods would be gone soon. Stakes with red flags surrounded each tree that would be cut down, and the moon tree was one of these trees that would be cut down. Why? Cried Hector. To make room, which means to make space for the new shopping mall, said Mrs. Wu. That's not right, said Stuart. There must be something we can do to save the moon tree. Mrs. Wu said they needed a plan. She and the boys talked all day about how to save the moon tree. By the time the library closed, they had a plan. What was the plan? The boys met with their friends. They told their friends the plan to save the moon tree. Hector held up a paper. This is a petition. What is a petition? A petition is a written request signed by a lot of people in order to do something. It says, the moon tree is an important part of history. It is too valuable to lose. Please save our moon tree. We need everybody in town to sign this petition in order to save the moon tree. Signatures will show that people really care about the moon tree, right? Stuart said, we need a lot of signatures. Then the builders might not cut down the moon tree. Hector said, ask everybody to sign the petition. Save the moon tree. They called themselves the Moon Tree Crew. Then Stuart named the tree. Why did he name the tree? He said, our moon tree needs a name. Why? Because people will care more about a tree called Apollo because it has something to do with our past. Stuart knew about these things. His father worked in the advertising business. So he wants to advertise, he wants everybody to know about the moon tree. So that's why he named the moon tree Apollo. Mrs. Wu made posters. Each poster, which is a large painted picture, usually we use it to advertise something, had a slogan. Save Apollo, the moon tree. What is a slogan? Slogan is a short phrase that is easy to remember. So people will remember the slogan and they will really save the moon tree. The boys and their friends were busy. Some went to stores, others worked down Main Street. They told people the moon tree story. The whole town wanted to help, so the moon tree crew got hundreds of signatures. What is a slogan? They are usually a very easy phrase, which is really easy to remember. Like, for example, just do it. You connect this with a special brand, with a special something, so it's really not easy to forget. Now, Hector and Stuart took the petition to Mr. Bowman. He built shopping malls for a living. This is the man who was going to build the shopping mall. Boys, you have made this tree really famous, really known, he said. How did you do it? My father told me how, said Stuart. He works in advertising. Mr. Bowman laughed. When I was your age, I saw the first lunar landing on TV. But has this tree really been to the moon? Yes, but it was only a seed then, said Hector. It never actually landed on the moon, Stuart added. It only orbited the moon. Mr. Bowman was silent for a moment. He was thinking, that's close enough for me, he said. Now he realized that this tree was really valuable to lose. Mr. Bowman did build a shopping mall, but he saved Apollo the moon tree. He had the old plaque cleaned and shined. Under the old plaque, he added a new one. It said, "The moon tree crew saved this tree." Thank you, said Hector and Stuart. No, thank you, said Mr. Bowman. This tree brings all of us closer to the moon, which is closer to our history. I hope that you like the story. Thank you so much and see you soon.